UMA bid. That was the start of it. First surface 4 years ago. It was taking this long to get any action. What kind of plans do you have if we defeat Obama, which I sincerely hope for the sake of the country we do? There's indications that he has put all kinds of people that don't have America's interests at heart into high-level bureaucratic positions that aren't elected positions. And I know once you're in the federal government, it's very difficult to get fired. Yet there needs to be a huge house cleaning of people that he has put into place, or you don't really solve any problems. How do you plan on handling that issue?
Yeah, well, there's probably a whole lot of stuff that he has put in place that we need to get rid of. And unfortunately, like you said, it's difficult to get rid of any kind of federal employee. I would certainly work alongside, any effort to be able to go in and clean house. Obviously, if they're U.S. citizens, we've got to move, protocol. But those folks that don't have our best interest at heart, we've got to try to identify them and maybe neutralize those folks by isolating the influence that they can have on the rest of Americans. I don't know how we do that. We'll just have to get in there and see. But there's a lot of stuff that's in place that once you get there, it'll be one of those things you have to try to.
I can suggest one area to start in that, myself, who's a recent citizen of this country, it shocked me to find out that the forms that I had to fill out asked all sorts of things about whether or not I'd ever been a Nazi. And I just can't believe that this day, and that was back in 2008. In this day and age, there wasn't one question on whether or not I'd ever been involved in any of these terrorist organizations, but numerous questions on whether or not I was a Nazi and had any ties to the German administration during World War II.
Well, and
that needs to be addressed.
And what you're seeing is preferential treatment of staying away from radical Muslim. We in 2007, as a state representative, we were all offered a Quran with our name emblazoned on the outside of it in an email. And I said, and in the email it said, if you don't want this, just respond back. And I did. I sent a real nice email back to this individual. I said, I appreciate the offer, but I don't view that book as my religious book. I believe in the Bible, and I certainly wouldn't want my name attached to a book I didn't believe in. Thinking that the situation would have been solved because they said, if you don't want this, just send an email back. Well, the next thing you know, our names are thrown into the press because we're being intolerant of other folks. I'm thinking, okay, that's fine. I'll stand on that principle. We had in Tulsa, we had a chief of police who refused to order his officers to go to a Muslim appreciation day off duty, and he was reprimanded and he was suspended and lost a year of his seniority. I actually went up and spoke at a rally in Tulsa in support of Officer Fields because of that. I think political correctness, we go overboard. It's like if you're a Christian and a conservative, you have to be quiet, but the liberal and whatever other tag you want to put on it, they're free to get all kinds of benefit. I think we really need to evaluate those situations and find people who aren't afraid to stand up for that.
You got to answer Daniel's question. The way you get rid of these people is you defund them.
Yeah.
I heard on the way over here today, this evening, listening to Mark Levin, that John Boehner has already said that he's going to do whatever he has to do to keep the government funded. They're not going to pass a budget. The Republican Party is not going to even introduce a budget because they don't want this fight before the elections.
I disagree with that because I'm not.
Well, you fight, and that's like that gets back to my deal, and I say I'll ask Mark Wayne these same questions. When it comes down to it, are you willing to take the heat, like Michelle Bachmann's taking right now? They're talking about booting her off of committees because she's standing up for us.
Right, and that's what it ought to be about. I've stood against my own party at the state legislature. I've been up in the gallery before, and I've had a House staffer stick his head through and say, hey, get down here, the speaker wants to talk to you. And I get down there, and the speaker wants to tell me how to vote. And I just walked right by him and kept my vote the way it is. I mean, it is tough, but it's if it's right and you're doing what's right, then you're okay, even if you're standing alone. And you know, I've done that on numerous occasions, and I can continue to do that.
I missed the thing about you being intolerant of Muslims. That would have been, that's a plus. I never did hear about that one, so.
Yeah, you can Google it in 2007, but you'll like this story. When I was at the rally, Act for America put on the rally. My wife was shaking her head. She doesn't want me to tell the story, but I'm going to. There's a fellow told me, he says, okay, there was this big brick planter. They said, now if something happens, we've got 6 individuals here who are concealed carry trained folks that will protect the crowd if something happens. And you jump behind here if need be. And I said, well, you know, that's good and fine and all, but my wife carries her pistol too, and she's going to be right out front. She's pretty strong shot, so I'm okay. She was parked right out front, and I said, I appreciate that, but if the baby's right out there, I'm fine. She has a better shot than I am. Unfortunately, it's my contacts, I'm sure. Well, I appreciate the chance to come. I mean, we'll probably cross paths on the campaign trail, and may the best individual win, and let's unite as a party, and let's make sure that this seat goes Republican. And we can have that Capital Gang t-shirt again. I just want my face on that t-shirt. Thank you so much.
Mark McMullen is our scheduled speaker for our next meeting, but I think Dwayne was just going to give a couple of comments updating what's going on. Do you have anything to say, Dwayne?
No.
Kind of updating what's going on with his campaign. I mean, not your campaign.
No, I'll let the other guys do that. No, the other thing I want to talk to this meeting tonight, because I can't talk in August. I'll be in talk in August. But, you know, a lot of things that George is saying, and you know, I'm going to springboard off that and say this. I was reading this morning, this is what I thought of tonight, this is why I want to just bring this tonight real quick, because this is for all of us. I was reading this morning about John Adams and something that just not too many years after the Revolutionary War was over. And he asked the question, he said, what is a revolution? You know, what does revolution mean? And he goes on, and the author that was writing about this, they made a comment, and they gave a couple of definitions of revolution and this and that. And that was fine. And in revolution, the bottom line it came back is that it was, the end result is change. If you think about it, that's exactly right. And as they talked about revolution, John Adams went on to say, he said, but you know, revolution was in the minds of the people years before it ever came. He says, is the definition of revolution American war? In other words, I think not, that it was in the minds of people. Revolution is freedom and liberty. It's not about war, it's about freedom and liberty. As I was thinking about that and all things like George, when he's talking about District 2, and then even on the national level, we need to have a mindset of revolution. That needs to be in the hearts and minds of everyone. Forget the party. That's got to be across the board. And so the only thing I wanted to say, Lynn, was just to challenge us as we think about this. Sure, we got to vote for people. Understand that part. And I just do your homework. Do your homework, you'll be fine. But the main thing is that what are we electing for? What are we fighting for? I think that's a key question we have to ask. Because in the end, revolution is what we want. Not armed, no. Revolution through the system that's already in place. And some of the things you're saying is we've got to get back to that Constitution. You've got to stand up there and fight that thing and say no more. And all these executive orders, that's not constitutional. Mm-hmm. No one is standing up. I don't know why. And I'm not throwing rocks. I just like to ask why. And I think I know why. I'm going to go back on political. It's all political. So, you know, and I'm not asking you, George, but what I'm saying, the question you need to ask, what are you gonna do about these executive orders that's totally unconstitutional? What are you gonna do when our leadership does things, and I don't care what party it is? Because see, here, the argument comes up and they say, well, Bush did it, or well, he was wrong too. He was wrong too. We gotta get the party and all that garbage, we gotta get back to the original of what they did, and they stuck to that Constitution, and that's what John Evans was talking about. He said, revolution. And I just want to leave that word with you tonight, revolution in the hearts and minds of people, so we can have the freedom and liberties that we have. That's what we're after. I mean, are we in agreement on that?
Yeah.
You're sure? You sound a little uncertain. Are we in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay, good. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Good words. You know, one thing I'll just end, because unless anybody has any other business tonight, does anybody have any business? One thing that strikes me, kind of piggyback off of what Dwayne said, is I used to teach a class I actually created a class that I taught at Claremore High School, kind of on a bet with the superintendent. He didn't think anybody could teach this group of basically derelict alleged juvenile delinquents. So I had this class and I taught them on the Constitution. And I only got to teach it for one semester because it was wildly successful, so that was the end of that. Donna knows that's the truth, isn't it, Donna?
Amen.
So, but I told those kids in that class that, you know, the problem is, if we don't stop this nonsense of creating fear, uncertainty, and doubt so that we can't trust each other, we're gonna all lose our freedom. Every last one of us. The entire Constitution is based on a couple of principles, and one of those principles is we value human life above all else. There is no qualifier on human life, not like we only care about those that we want, or we only care about those that aren't have any kind of disability or cause any kind of burden in society. And the second one is we trust each other. Trust is a huge element of that. So the good news for all of us in the 2nd District, along the lines of what George said, is we have an opportunity to really know each other. And we have an opportunity to know the people we send to Congress. That's different than Tulsa and Oklahoma City, where they don't even know their neighbors. There's a reason why we all want to live out here and we like it. Because we really get to know. And when you know somebody, you can do two things. You can hold them accountable, and you can trust them because you can hold them accountable. And so whoever we send from the 2nd District, we know that. We know that we're going to know them because we really know them. And we know that we can hold them accountable and we can trust them. And they're going to know that we're going to do that. So we're not going to have an issue of somebody going to Congress and betraying our trust. That's not going to happen to us. Might happen to other people, but it isn't going to happen to the people in the 2nd District because we've already started this method and we're going to do it. So I appreciate everybody's comments tonight. I appreciate everybody turning out. I think it's really exciting to see such a large number of people involved. And I encourage everyone to inform your conscience, vote for one of these two men, and then as soon as it's over, join ranks with the other.